Hey guys, it's Phil coming at you with another video, and I know I normally upload every 2 weeks, but I've been getting a lot of questions and I wanted to address them in a video, so I'm coming back at you sooner than I normally would. But before we get into the topic and those considerations, 2 people passed their exam since our last upload, and I'm super duper excited about that because people are actually testing and walking in there and getting their job done. COVID has not stopped people from getting licensed, and that makes me so excited and happy to hear that testing has started to ramp back up and people are benefiting and getting the job done. And those people are Sarah M and Diana W. And I am more than excited to announce that because it just makes me so happy and excited and eviscerating like joy for the people when they do pass and start getting what they want, because they're like, previously before this I was second guess myself, I couldn't get this done. So it warms my heart to know that people are testing and getting what they want, believing in themselves, doubling down and getting the job done. If you want assistance in the process, the next Sunday study groups, and they're at 7 p.m. Eastern time, are as follows. 5-3 practice questions, and it's not going to go over the acronym this time, but we're going to go over 15 practice questions, peel them back, rip them apart. You get a recording of all of the sessions. This one's going to be pretty big, so if you're interested, I would suggest signing up as soon as that you can, because there is likely going to be a cap on the amount of people that we can get in that session, and I want to help and benefit those that are interested, as well as many as we possibly can. 5-10 defense mechanisms, Maslow's, and a random topic that I haven't really decided yet. We may not do another topic, but if you want to hear something in particular, comment down below and I'll likely plug it in, because I'm kind of wrestling with which one I want to see in that study group. 5-17 group and family therapy, and then 5-24 meds and DSM-5. And if you're interested and want information for those, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And if you're like, Phil, I think I need more personalized, I do offer individual tutoring as well. Send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. The information for the study groups and the individual tutoring will be in the description as well as those that don't know. And if you do know, Audible has decided to sponsor both my podcast and my YouTube videos. So the way that you can support me as well as support them is go to my affiliate link at audibletrial.com/fillinthegaps. And the way that you can benefit me is sign up for the 30-day free trial, get your free book, because when you do sign up, it's free, you get a free book, and there's no obligation on your end. And a couple of books, if you're like, Phil, I do want to benefit you and I want to sign up for the free trial, but I'm not sure what book I want to get. There are 3 that I recommend at this given moment, and that's Outliers, The Alchemist, and then The Power of a Habit. And The Power of the Habit is kind of going to be relevant to this particular video, because I'm going to describe how and what it looks like for if you're getting back into testing, or if you're like, dude, my motivation is gone, what do I do? I'm going to address that of how to develop a habit and develop a routine while taking care of yourself in this video. And again, the way that you can support me is go to audibletrial.com/fillinthegaps, sign up for the 30-day free trial, get your free book, and start practicing self-care. And if you want or have any questions for me, again, the way that you can reach me as a berda24@gmail.com. If you want to get a part of my Facebook page, it's Fill in the Gaps. And if you're like, yo, you have a podcast? I didn't know. I'm on Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify at Fill in the Gaps as well. I appreciate all the support that you guys show me in any way, shape, or form that you do. You all are appreciated. As much as I can possibly give out to you guys, I will, and it does not go unnoticed when you guys comment, you send me positive emails, and you just rock and rep in the study groups, individual tutoring, or if you're helping spread my name in any way that you are amazing. But let's get into the topic of the video right now. So a lot of questions I'm getting is, Phil, the exam sites are now opening up, or my exam testing date is now in July and August. How do I stay motivated? I was super excited before, now I can't stay focused, or my exam date is coming up. I didn't think I had to start studying. I thought I was going to get canceled, and now I'm back in the fire. Well, to that, I always have a tailored response, but there's some general themes that I keep saying and like telling people, so I always want to share when I find new things, so I want to give it back to you guys. So the first recommendation that I have when people tell me that my exam is coming up or my exam date was pushed back or I'm unmotivated, I'm not sure where to start studying or what the heck does this process look like, I always say work on your mental health and your mental game, not just skill. And what do I mean by that? Because a lot of times when people think about the exam, they're like, well, I need to learn the technique that you teach, or I need to learn this, or what if there's concepts over here that I don't know, or what about this? But being able to manage your anxiety, your negative thoughts, as well as the unexpected or uncertainty is super duper important. So the way that you prepare and push back at that is giving yourself credit and reflecting on what are the negative thoughts that I say and what are positive ones that I can say. And people have heard me say this of every negative thought you have, since you have them the majority of the day, if you do have them, I personally have some of them, I do need to practice 2 positive things to tell myself when that negative thought comes, because I need to get ahead of the negative thoughts, because I've been practicing them for so long that I always need to supplement more positive in my life, because I'm a very strong proponent of positive energy equals positive results. So like even today, I was like, yo, I don't even know if I'm doing enough or what can I do to help more people. Because for those that don't know, I'm a mental health and substance use therapist during the day. And then I tutor and then answer emails and do videos on my own time afterwards, which is work, but I enjoy doing it. But again, it's like, what if I'm not doing enough? Or what if I'm letting people down? Or what about this? And I'm sure some of you guys have had these same exact thoughts of like, man, I need to study, or I need to help these people out, and then I need to take care of my kids or my family, or I need to talk to this person. And it's like, yo, start at the basics and breathe. You are not the only person that is in that situation or the only person that is supposed to help and do everything. And again, it's like, well, things are time sensitive, but I would rather you invest your time in building yourself up than tearing yourself down for not doing the things that you think you need to do. And it's easier said than done, but putting things into perspective and focusing on the mental health of at least I did something closer to what I wanted to do. So my biggest push when it's like at the very basic level, if you're at a very, very low mental health or very low mood that day, just reflecting what I want my future self to accomplish and what is one thing that I can do to get there. And a lot of people that rock with me are trying to pass their exam. So what is one thing, or what is a small allotment amount of time that you can put towards your goal to feel like you did something that day? Whether that's 10 minutes of studying, whether that's one question, maybe that's thinking about studying and then the next day I'm actually going to study. Again, it's not all about skill in the situation. You need to build your mental health up. And if you're like, Phil, I did take my exam. I have failed multiple times. I've done all of these things that you're suggesting at the basic level before you put your head down. And if you put your head down because you're sad, anxious, anything like that, at least utilize it to read a question, to read something. Maybe if it's praying, if that's what you do or that's a support of yours, do something. When you are looking down, don't just look down in disappointment. Look down to succeed. And if you're throwing your hands up, make sure you're ready to fight, because we are not going to just stop and not continue pushing towards our goal. At this time, it's a very stressful moment, but do not let this opportunity slip from your hands based on the current moment, because moments pass whether we want them to or not. So utilize and maximize your mental health. So in order for when the date comes, if your exam's in July or August, I said in my last video, like scaling's important, but also mentally being okay with mourning the situation. It didn't go how you wanted it to. So how can you process and delegate and assess and address those feelings without simply saying, I need to solve this? Because a lot of times as social workers and as humans, we are going to stuff down the things that bother us. And at the end of the day, it's the things that bother us that are going to propel us further. If you address and confront things when they happen, it's typically easier to address and assess them. Why? Because they haven't piled up. It's like my laundry, for example. If I were to do my laundry more frequently, not that I have to do it every day, but if I did it, let's say once a week, it's going to have less buildup than if I save it for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, etc. Because the more things that you do to save yourself time in the meantime is going to build more time for you. And again, working on that mental health, being realistic with yourself and saying, what do I need to do right now? And what should I do to prepare and set myself better. And again, skill is needed in this, but you need to make sure your mental health is positive and focused. And if you do feel defeated or do feel that you need more support and stuff like that, reach out to people, join the Sunday study groups, reach out to me, any which way. Make sure your mental health is in the best possible form that it possibly be in, because if you're not mentally okay, the way you perform is going to be less than if you were mentally okay and your skill was good. You know what I mean? So focus on that mental health, and I feel like that is the very most under thought about thing in this exam. Is a lot of times people are like, well, I don't want to talk about how I failed, or I don't want to talk it or tell people I'm testing. Work on your mental health, put that in check, and then you will be able to get the check because you've done everything that is needed to get the job done. The second thing that I would say is develop a new routine. And this was what I was talking about when I was like, The Power of a Habit is a very, very good book to help set this framework up. But if you're going to develop a new routine, because we're all out of the dysfunct right now, I'm personally working from home, so I sit in this chair the majority of my days and the majority of my time. So when I was at the office, I could leave client work. I could leave the mental drain there, and I could come home, do what I want to do, practice self-care, get the job done, and I'd feel like $1,000,000. And then I'd go to work, and then it'd be like a pattern. Now it's like, Phil, you're in this apartment like 100% of the time because you're social distancing and you're trying to limit the spread of all of these things. So what can I do to develop a new routine? So this morning, like I was telling you, I was feeling like kind of low and like, am I doing enough? Am I doing all this? And I was like, stop. Your new routine is starting today. You've developed a new routine that you thought was working, so you need to have the courage and address and assess the situation. So my new routine from here on out is going to be wake up. I'm going to do a stretching routine, not yoga because I'm not a yoga person, but I'm going to do like a stretching routine. I'm going to do some push-ups. I'm going to do some like exercises, maybe some squats. Why? Because when I exercise, I feel better. And when I feel better, I want to do better. So that's the new routine. And then at night, I'm like, okay, I'm super worried. I'm wanting to do all this. And it's like, no, you're going to sit your butt down. You're going to read in a book. Why are you going to read in a book? Because you told people that you're not that good at reading, and it's true. So we need to make sure at the end of the day, you're gaining more knowledge so that you can help more people, because with knowledge comes power, and with that endurance and assessing and addressing and trying to become the best possible version of yourself, that routine has to come out. And you're like, well, what routine should I do? And it's like, well, if you're doing telehealth services or if you're at work and you want to fit this exam in, how can we make it happen? Because before, you may have been able to study at work on your break, or you may have been able to come home and do it when you got home. But at the end of the day, just doing that small effort of developing that routine. And again, I said like the framework of 10 minutes at a time, but maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's a minute, maybe it's an hour. But make sure you're checking in with yourself and saying, what do I need to do at this moment, and not being so locked into that. So it can be a fluid routine, but make sure it's so structured with the bread and butter that you slip new things in to see if it works. But at the end of the day, you have your bare bones of this is the amount of time for self-care. This is the amount of time of sleep that I need. This is the food that I need to eat, etc. Because when things are predictable, you know what to predict, and your anxiety tends to go a little bit lower, and you actually can see steps and patterns of, oh, wow, I feel a little bit lower today. Well, you did not exercise and do the things that you needed to do in your routine. And that doesn't mean you have to do it every day, but developing a routine that works best for you. And I can't say it enough. A lot of times we have a lot of things outside of us like, well, that person's doing that, or this person did this, and this person passed, and this person failed, so I can't replicate all of this. You are a unique being and special for a reason. So you need to sit your tush down, assess and address what you need to do, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, avoid the things that do not work for you, and get yourself into a position that you feel comfortable. Again, you're going to have lapses, you're going to have bad days, you're going to have this over here, but starting back at zero is better than continuing to go on and hurting yourself in the interim, because you may feel like you're progressing in the situation, but your mental health is out of the realm, or your relationships are messed up, or you're studying well and you're doing well, but your health is diminishing. So making sure you're at an even keel, because your number one routine and goal right now should be to survive. And some of you are like, well, I want to do this or I want to do that. Your number one goal right now is to survive, whether that's survive in the career, whether it's survive in life, any way you want to take that. But your goal right now has to be survive, because when you survive, you can strive. And as long as you have a heartbeat in your chest, it may feel like it's over, but you still have life to go. So you still have goals and accomplishments that you can reach at this given moment. Do not surrender, or do not let this COVID take you down, or the exam take you down, or someone's comment over here, you saw a Facebook post about someone passed or they didn't pass, so then it makes you panic. That's not you. You are so unique that you have to reflect, address, and assess, and do a tailored plan with yourself, as you would with the client. You wouldn't carbon copy everything that a client says and tell them the plans and the goals. You would sit them down and say, what's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? What do you want to work on? And what are barriers to getting that job done? So you have to practice what you preach, because when you practice, you're not practicing to become perfect. You're practicing to perform, because when you perform, you can excel and you can accomplish and you can make it permanent. We don't need you to be perfect. We need you to solidify something that is so permanent that when you walk into that exam, you feel comfortable and confident. So a big thing, if you're not practicing questions or doing material as you would see it on the actual exam, or what you want to see during the actual exam, you're almost robbing yourself of a repetition or an opportunity to get yourself closer to passing the dang exam or creating a routine. So when I'm working with people in individual tutoring, what I typically tell them is read the question how you're going to read it when you're in the actual exam. And why do I say that? Because if you're going to read it out loud during the exam, you best get your butt in there reading it out loud during that actual exam. Or if you're going to read it out loud in practice and then you're going to read it to yourself during the real exam, you shouldn't be reading it out loud in practice. Why? Because you've created two different routines. So when you become anxious and your back's against the wall and you start second guessing, you start tearing yourself down, which one are you going to go to? Whichever one felt most comfortable for you. And if it's the one that you've been practicing that you're not most comfortable with, you've been fooling yourself and you're not utilizing your superpowers and investing in yourself the way you should have. And it's scary to develop a new routine, but at the end of the day, you've started so many new routines in your life that this isn't new. This isn't a new process, because even starting to study was a routine at the beginning and was a new process and scary. And if you're like, Phil, this is my first time taking the exam, or I haven't developed a routine and process, sit down, reflect, address, and get what you need. And that's the thing, is like, some people are like, I'm not sure where to start. What do you know? What don't you know? Take what you need, throw away the rest, because you need to tailor it to your specific self. The third suggestion that I have is give yourself credit where you sometimes do not feel you need it, or if you're giving yourself credit along the way, create a way to track that. Because, for example, if you were supposed to take your exam soon and it got pushed back and now it's in July and August, you best be giving yourself credit for what you did for that attempt. Even though you didn't get to see the result, it was repetitions and time that you did not lose, as long as you didn't get a frontal lobotomy and get your head cut out, which if that happened, I'm sorry, and I'm just kidding, but you did not lose that knowledge or experience. So a lot of times when people are like, Phil, I took like 3, 4, 5 times, I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, I can't believe this happened to me. It's like, but you have more experience than anyone that has ever taken that exam, less than you. And people would pay for that experience and exposure to the actual test and to the actual process, because with clarification comes comfortability, and you have that clarification. You know what's going on. You know what's up. So giving yourself credit of, at least I studied this amount of time, or I did this activity for myself, because self-care is a part of my studying and not just content or not just questions, or I did get that question wrong, but I didn't second guess myself, so that's progress. Or I got that right, but I kind of second guessed myself, but I still got it right. So I give myself credit rather than tear myself down and be like, yep, you second guess yourself, so you're going to get it wrong the next time. No, give yourself credit, because as humans, we need rewards for what we do to get what we want. And you may be like, dude, I'm not materialistic, or I don't need this, or I don't need that. But at the end of the day, everyone just wants acceptance and being able to have that ability to say, I accomplished this. And if you're at the spot where people are second guessing you or telling you can't handle this, or you've done this X amount of time, you need to give up, a quote that has resonated with me recently, and it'll probably stay with me the rest of my life, is do not wait for them to call your name. Call your own name. because at the end of the day, no one's going to believe you as much as you're going to believe in yourself, and some people are not going to be able to see your goals out. And some of y'all know that I paid off my student loans, and people were telling me I was crazy. You can't do this. You're a social worker. You don't make enough money. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. But in my head, I saw myself paying it off, and I made it happen. And that's not everybody's story. And there's people that are probably telling you can't pass the exam, or you're telling yourself you can't pass the exam. Start practicing and telling yourself, what would it look like when I pass the exam? Start making plans. Maybe if your goal is to open a private practice, start making a logo. Start developing, researching how and what it would look like to have the private practice. Talk to somebody that has one, etc. Why? Because when you start looking and researching and assessing and addressing the situation, you start putting forth more energy than you had when you were tearing yourself down and telling you that you couldn't even handle what was in front of you at that given moment. You are so gifted and powerful at this moment that you need to let go of where you thought you would be if you had failed the exam and embrace where you are, because you are closer than you have ever been, because this is the furthest you've ever lived, and this is the closest you are to your next attempt, or you passing this doggone thing. Why? Because no one knows what's in the future, so you have to count the days like they need to be counted. And you need to make them count so that when you look back, they were worthwhile. You weren't just doing things that you wanted to do at the moment that was for pleasure-seeking behaviors. And you are doing what was difficult, what was tough, because no one that has passed the exam looks back and says, wish I wouldn't have done all of that. No, they're excited. Why? Because they drove through and did what other people would not have wanted them to do, because they believed what they were doing was right for them, and they don't need the reassurance from other people. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have people building you up and giving you accountability within the situation, but do not base your plan off of the affirmations of other people, because at the end of the day, people will leave that situation, and you need to stand on your own 2 feet and say, this was my goal, and even if people are not building me up in this situation, I've built myself up so high that if a flood comes, my neck is above the water, because I am capable and willing and able to do this situation, even though I don't believe that I can do it. And some of you, even, I'm just being super transparent in this video, I guess, apparently, but before I make videos, I have a conversation with myself and say, do you think what you're going to say is actually going to be heard by people? Do you actually think you're still intelligent enough to come up with new ideas for people? So I have to sit those ideas down and say, yes, I will prevail. And the people that are going to hear the message are the people that are supposed to meet and hear the message. And I'm not trying to shoot for everybody, because not every person is my person. I need to stay focused on what my goal is, and that's to help people pass the exam. I'm not trying to help the people that don't want to be helped. So at the end of the day, I have to tell myself, this is the absolute best video that you're ever going to produce, because it's the most current, with the most knowledge that you've ever had, and the most motivation, the most energy, and all of these things put and combined together. But I don't forget that where I came from of the first video of like, man, hopefully this works out. But again, having that healthy fear is important. So a lot of times people are like, I'm afraid of failing the exam. Phil, what do I actually do? And it's like, that's a healthy fear. Because there's a possibility. There's a 50% chance whether you pass or fail the exam, whether you study or not. Why? Because there's two options, and 100 divided by 2 is 50%. So there's a 50% chance whether you pass or fail. And if you want to give some of your 50% of passing away, start negatively talking to yourself and degrading yourself and second guessing and telling yourself you can't finish it. So again, start calling your name and giving yourself credit from what you're doing and where your efforts have been, because at the end of the day, as long as you're pushing forward and giving positive thoughts within the situation, you're going to get the reward at some point in time. It may not be this next attempt. It may not be the attempt after that, but as long as you do not give up and keep pushing and striving and driving forward towards your goal, you will get there. And not everyone does everything on the first time or the second time or the third time or the fourth time. And that's okay. And I'm not saying that you should be okay with that situation. But entertaining, I will pass or I will fail. But if I fail, I did not lose something. It did not mean that I failed. It means that I'm pushing forward. I'm more hungry. I'm more focused. I have more experience. I'm better off than I once ever was. And I need to lay my hat there, because that's where I belong. I belong in a successful and positive environment. And if someone has put me in a negative environment, I owe it to myself to get out of that negative environment and get out of that moment of I'm not going to learn something. Because if you did not take anything from the things that you've been through in the past, you've actually robbed from yourself, and you should probably take yourself to the local police station, because stealing is a bad move. No, I'm just kidding. But still, you need to give yourself things along the way to get the job done. So giving yourself credit may be a material thing. Maybe it's something you've always wanted. Get yourself something. Maybe it's you've always wanted to read a book. Read the book that you want to read while you're preparing for this, so that way you have some positive and strive and drive along the way. Maybe you buy the book, but you don't get to read it until you actually get into the goal of what you want. Maybe that's passing the exam, etc. So giving yourself credit for where you're at, even though you do not feel that you need it or don't deserve it at that moment, is super duper important. So you need to start rewarding yourself. You start need to having like fantasies of what it will look like when you pass the exam and get past all of this stuff. And the fourth suggestion that I have is find at least one person to check in with. And I find it super duper important to have an accountability partner. My personal accountability partner is my roommate. He's a nurse practitioner. He's starting to get his MCAT. He's as ambitious, if not more ambitious than I am, and has more energy, if not the same amount of energy as I do. So it's like a match made in heaven. He has goals. He's working. He's striving. He's grinding. I have goals. I'm working. I'm striving. I'm grinding. When he's low, I'm keeping him accountable. When I'm low, he's keeping me accountable and asking me what I'm doing and how I'm doing and what do I need at this given moment. So finding at least one person, and I could be that person for somebody. Or maybe it's somebody that you've already have in your life. Again, finding people that have similar minds and similar goals and similar styles to you is super duper important. Because if you're alone in the process, it's going to feel daunting. I get emails quite frequently. Phil, I listen to the podcast. Or I listen to this video and I heard somebody that has failed. Or I heard somebody that passed. I didn't know that people could actually fail the exam, or that I thought I was the only one that's ever failed multiple times, or I didn't even know people could pass the exam. All the people around me have failed the exam, or I failed the exam myself so many times that I didn't even know it was possible. So again, getting yourself in environments that you may not feel that you even deserve to be in, but knowing that you deserve to be there because you're a human and you have experience and you have knowledge and you have power that you do not know that you have at the given time when you have it, but you do have it. You need to start building yourself up so much that you feel like you could run through the wall and survive. It's like, well, that's a wall. Yup, I could probably find a way to kick myself through that or something in some way, shape, or form. But again, you have to build yourself up. Identify your strengths, identify your weaknesses, be willing to sharpen up your weaknesses, and being able to reinforce the positives that you have. So maybe that's joining a Facebook page, maybe that's joining my Facebook page, maybe that's joining the Sunday study groups, maybe that's joining the individual tutoring. So every facet or all this access to technology and supports and resources, it'd be lost on you if you didn't use it. And I'm not telling you that you have to be everywhere at every point in time, but at least be mindful of, if you feel alone, know that there's probably a handful, if not 100 people that are experiencing the same things as you at this given moment. Because as humans, it's very rare that we have unique situations from somebody else. And it may be easier when you're silent to be able to stuff it because you feel like you're handling the situation on your own. But as humans, without help or without assistance, we don't accomplish anything. There's not one person that's ever been successful that did it entirely on their own. And people may be like, well, what do you mean? And that's why I love reading books. The Outliers alludes to that and says, even though it looks like this person did it all by themselves, they had family support, maybe they had an opportunity that was given only to them, or maybe it was the schooling system they had, maybe it was they brushed shoulders with the right person, maybe it was the nationality they had, maybe it's the age they had, maybe it's all of these things. So focusing and knowing that you have talents and gifts and opportunities that other people may not have. And if you don't feel like you have them, connect yourself with somebody that's doing what you want to do and be able to blow up. So if you want to pass the exam, and you know that somebody learns the same way you do, connect with them, see how they pass. Doesn't mean you have to replicate everything they did. Maybe you could learn a tip or two of how you could benefit and assess and address and win in your situation. And you're like, well, why not? And it's like, because you deserve to be able to connect with that person. And anxiety is a real thing, so you might be like, man, they may judge me or do this or they may do that. What if they don't? What if it turns out really, really great? What if it ends up being the best conversation and engagement that you had at this given moment and increase the likelihood of you passing the exam? Everything that I've done that I was afraid of has led to positive things. Reaching out to a mentor at the University of Michigan when I was there has led to me being able to do lectures at the university multiple times. It's allowed me to be able to do conference presentations. Me being afraid to make videos on YouTube has amounted to you guys rocking with me at this given moment. It blows me away with how many people reach out to me, or how many people engage with me, or how many people are actually watching the videos and liking the videos and subscribing to the YouTube channel. It's amazing to me. But again, without me doing something that I was afraid of doing or didn't think that I could do, this would not be possible. You would not be hearing me right now. I would not be able to accomplish all of the things that I've accomplished, and you guys that have listened to me and passed your exams would have not been able to do that if I did not push past my own doubt and didn't find myself in an accountability partner. And it's varied throughout my entire situation of who's my accountability partner, but we're not doing this in isolation anymore. And whether that's you having to reach out to me and engaging in the stuff that I offer, maybe it's reaching out to a friend that you've always wanted to talk to, maybe it's you reaching out to somebody on the internet that you didn't even think would respond to you, make at least 5 outreach attempts after listening to this video in some way, shape, or form. Maybe that's your family, maybe that's friends, maybe that's somebody to help you study, maybe that's someone to help you do X, Y, or Z. Do not let this time take its time away from you. Utilize the opportunities that are there with you, as well as the supports and resources, because most times people are willing to help you out in the process at that given time. So find yourself a community, and if not, build one. Because if you feel like you're alone again, ask people if they want to join the community that you're creating, and more people will join than you think. It'll be overflown. Your cup will be overflown with the opportunities and support. And if you did not engage in the things that you're afraid of, you would not be able to do that. So again, if you hear anything from this video, work on your mental health, develop a new routine, reach out to new people, give yourself credit even though you don't think you can do it. And the 5th thing is practice understanding. And you're like, well, what do you mean I need to be patient? In any given situation, when you are in a rush, haste has always been waste. Whenever you're in a hurry or try to rush processes, you tend to make mistakes. You tend to be in not your right mind state because your frontal lobotomy, aka frontal lobe, you've almost given yourself a frontal lobotomy, or your frontal lobe is offline when you're anxious or riled up or have an overload of emotion. Why? Because it goes offline and then it goes into your limbic system, which is fight, flight, freeze, and or submit. So you need to be open and willing to be able to have that conversation with yourself and say, am I about to make an impulsive move or a hasteful move based on what feels right now, what is actually right at this given moment? So your test being rescheduled, or your exam being canceled, or your exam coming up and you didn't study, practicing patience with yourself if your exam is super far away and saying, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be at this given moment, because there's no mistakes in life, and this could actually have been saving me from a situation. So for example, let's say you were supposed to take your exam already, you walk in there on the alternate reality and you fail the exam, and now you haven't taken the exam, so you haven't failed it, so it has almost saved you from that attempt that could have resulted in a fail. Or let's say you're like, man, I wouldn't have felt confident if I had to walk in the exam that early anyway. So now you have the additional time to study. So rather than being like, man, holy crap, I can't believe this is happening, being patient and saying, there's a lesson in this time right now, and I need to find it. So being able to practice patience in the situation. And in this society, we've become so wired to get us things as fast as we possibly can. I can go on Amazon right now, order something, and it's probably going to be here by the time I go to sleep. Just kidding, but probably the next day, honestly. Or I order this, or I get something instantly, or I email somebody and they get back to me immediately with a response, or I text somebody, or I call somebody. We are so wired for instant gratification or instant results that when things take time, we get angry. So a good example, let's say you're getting coffee in whatever line you go in, Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, etc., and they tell you it's going to be an extra 5 minutes than normal. You may get hasteful, you maybe start pacing, it starts getting into that 7-minute mark, and you're like, yo, you said 5 minutes, what's the deal here? But if you peel yourself back and say, wow, if this extra time at this coffee shop could have saved me from getting into a car crash, or could have saved me from losing my life, or etc., any given moment, there's a reason for why you're not where you want to be. And that's not to say that you shouldn't get what you want, but at any given moment in life, if you're not where you want to be, there's probably something that you have to learn in the interim. And that lesson is going to save you from derailing yourself or ruin the opportunity that you would have originally had. And a lot of times we like to have control over our situations. We like to tell ourselves, I want this, or I want that, or it needs to be like this, or it needs to be like that. And that's okay. But at the end of the day, you need to be patient. You need to be mindful. You need to be grateful for where you are at this given moment, because there's a lesson, there's a reason, there's a season, there's all of these things for us to be able to develop ourselves into the best possible version of ourselves. And when we peel back and reflect on the moment and say, what did I gain, or what am I supposed to gain in this moment, and gain a deeper sense of gratefulness and empathy for yourself, others, and in the situation of, wow, there are other people that are in this situation, and if I would have gotten it fast, it could have taken away an opportunity from somebody else, etc. So when you're patient with yourself, that leads to the credit. Because when you're not getting the instant gratification, create a system for you to get gratification, even though it's not the end result. And it's kind of the cliche phrase of, it's not about the result, it's about the journey and what the lessons you gain along that journey, if you're going to maintain the result or not, or if the result's actually going to mean something for you. So for example, let's say you buy something, or you get a prep program and you're like, I'm going to get so excited and wired into it. You're like, this is the best program out there. Everyone's talking about it. And you get it instantly. And you're like, I'm going to do everything. And then you go headstrong into it. And then you notice that it doesn't get into your learning style, or you already know all of the stuff it's telling you. Your interest is... So understanding what works and what is going to be in your situation is important. So being patient, being mindful, understanding there's lessons that you don't even know are possible in the situation, or that you need to pull out of the situation, is very, very important. And that comes through having a deeper understanding of what's going on in yourself and why you feel that way. Maybe your angst to want to pass the exam is because you want your financial situation to improve, or you want relationships to improve, or you want to be able to tell people you passed the test, or if you don't pass it, you want to be able to speed it up so you can say you passed it and be on the same path as everyone else is. But at the end of the day, being patient, knowing that you're in your own race, and if you're not in a situation, that situation was not meant for you, and that's okay, because we're all uniquely powerful, and we're going to get to where we're going eventually, whether that's take a plane, whether that's take a car, or whether that's walking there. And most people may be like, well, why are you walking there if someone's taking a plane? And at this given situation, no one's taking a plane. So that person that is walking, it may take them longer, but they're going to appreciate when they actually get there, and they're going to be in a better position than the person that went super fast. They may not even appreciate what they get or what it looks like for them. So again, being mindful, being grateful, and being patient in your situation is going to improve all of the previous things that I said of working on your mental health, developing a new routine, giving yourself credit along the way, finding at least one person, because again, if you reach out to one person and they don't get back to you, having patience, or the willingness and gratefulness and opportunity to reach out to another person, and then having patience about them getting back to you. Again, having understanding of everyone's in this situation together, and just because it feels wrong right now does not mean that it's entirely wrong, because everyone's going to get to the right path and be in the right position at the right time, because that's just how everything works out. And again, if you want assistance from me, reach out to me for the Sunday study groups, which they are 5-3, practice questions, 5-10, defense mechanisms, Maslow's, and an unknown study group, 5-17, group and family therapy, 5-24, DSM-5 and meds, or for individual tutoring. And if you want any information on any of those, send me an email at berda24@gmail.com. And if you want to support me via my Audible link, it's audibletrial.com/fill-in-the-gaps. Sign up for that 30-day free trial. Get your free book. Help build yourself up mentally and practice self-care utilizing that. And again, the books that I would suggest for people: Outliers, Alchemist, and The Power of Habit. And if you like this video, or you like all of my videos in general, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below one thing that you learned from this video or one thing that you want other people to learn. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Click that bell icon next to it and it'll give you an email notification every time I upload a video. I cannot say it enough, guys. I appreciate everything that you guys do with and for me and all of the positive feedback and all of the community supports that you've provided to other people as well as to yourself. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next video. If you need anything from me, again, my email is berda24@gmail.com. Take care, guys. Be safe. Check on other people that are important to you. Check in with yourself. Practice self-care and get better today. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, guys.